Oh well, yeah. Like you said with Obama, you made a great point a while back. You said that Obama would never have been elected if he had any problem whatsoever with his birth certificate, right? He's born in Kenya.
My point was that if he had been elected without all of that being nailed down, then that is the story, and it's not even particular anything specific to Obama. It's just the story would be how does anybody become president without having their shit checked out beforehand and have it ironclad, Because, I mean, isn't the dude supposed to be, like, in charge of the military? For fuck's sake. I mean,
That's right. So it's the same thing when you get into these. It almost applies blanket to this entire stuff that these people are talking about. If she's such a hardcore criminal, she shouldn't even, be up there running for president at all. I think even Trump said that. Right. But see, this is done within the context. When Trump is saying it's done within the context of Republican versus Democrat, right? He's not going to obviously question the foundation of the law itself. I think another thing that's pretty funny is he keeps bringing this up. He says, like, ICE and Border Patrol endorsed him, right?
Yeah.
He says, oh, ICE endorsed him, and so that's supposed to be a good thing. The Republicans are supposed to feel real good about that. Just so you know, ICE actually has been caught assisting in coyote runs.
Right. That's when I heard that, I was thinking this. Okay, and this is replete throughout our so-called system. It's like, so you have the ICE, you have the Border Patrol. Do you really think, John, at this point in the game, that they want a real wall at the border? Because what would that do? That would put them out of business, wouldn't it? It would make their jobs irrelevant.
Yeah, the other thing. Well, yeah, the other thing too is it's been reported multiple times, and I even brought this up on a call one time before. Is I had a friend who I used to work with, and he was an illegal alien, and he became a citizen, and he worked for a time at Tyson Chicken in Arkansas, and he was brought over by a coyote.
Mm-hmm.
And he would work the midnight shift, him and his brother. They lived in a hotel with, 50 other people or whatever, right? And they worked at Tyson Chicken in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So the corporations are all good with this type of stuff. This really does go on. And there's been things in the past that I've read about how ICE assists this, and then they have these, like, token busts every year. Like, once, you'll read, like, oh, ICE bust 200 people at a, shop in Illinois,
mm-hmm.
That has illegal aliens working there. And then it turns out that they don't even really bust them. They just, like, tell them all to go home for the day or something like that.
Yeah. And make it look like they're doing something. Now, how cushy of a job is that, I mean, as far as the immigration service and all this horse shit. So you're telling me that they want Trump to basically eliminate their cake jobs, their cake government jobs with the good benefits and shit? That it's hard to get a good job nowadays because they've totally gutted the economy. And so they want Trump to take away their job by putting up a wall at the border so that it makes their job obsolete. Do you really want me to believe that?
Going to build a wall. It's going to be great. Yeah. It's going to be tremendous.
It's going to be tremendous. Yeah, he says tremendous a fuck ton, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like...
So here's another thing. And So yeah, these people all come out against, this, and really what it is, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's a war on words. It's a war on freedom of speech, not freedom of speech that, because we know that freedom of speech is not guaranteed in the sacred parchment and never has been. But it's to further do away with the idea of being able to say what you want, even though you never had that right in the first place. And we've discussed this before. It's like in the past when you had these, it's funny they've done this like total reverse. It was the liberals who got everybody in modern society to be able to say foul-mouthed stuff, right?
Right.
And yet now it's the liberals who don't want all that same stuff anymore.
Well, yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing how out of how disconnected that is. Right. Yeah, it definitely is. But it is sort of this. Well, here's the thing too. It's just like the law. Okay, it's selectively enforced. Always has, always will be. The law is always selectively enforced. Never has been uniformly enforced. You could just show endless examples of that. And the same thing is too with any kind of political weapon. Is that like with the political correctness and stuff like that, it's used as a political weapon to try to shame people, to shut them down, to get them second guess themselves, and to be used as like a bludgeon to beat them over the head with. But see, it's going to be used like a weapon because it is a weapon. It's like you're not gonna if you have a good like what are those things like blackjack? It's got like a lead. It's like a lead bag with it's like a bag. It's like a leather casing with a piece of lead in it. And you can like knock somebody over the head with that. Like say you just bought one. It's like, man, this is like great. It's like that guy over there. I'm gonna knock him on the head. Are you gonna hit your friend over the head with it? No, you hit your enemies in the head with it. It's like. This is the weaponization of words is what we're talking about. Yeah, like they're gonna hit their enemies over the head with this weapon that they have that they're trying to hone and develop. And if you look at it, like they're not a lot of these people aren't very skilled because they come out really very very overtly duplicitous on all this stuff, but. Yeah, it is clearly a weapon.
So the last thing, I won't even get into all the debates or all that nonsense. They always bring up these fake instances. Oh, the horrific Orlando shooting. Oh, the horrific ISIS. Oh, the horrific. What was the other one they brought up? San Bernardino. Trump brought up San Bernardino. Of course, Hillary likes to bring up the fact that she caught bin Laden. These are all things that are fake. Okay? Orlando was fake. San Bernardino was fake.
I thought Obama caught him. Oh, yeah. Hillary was on his posse, right? They caught.
Yeah, she was Secretary of State.
Osama.
Of course, we know that was fake, and they've got the faked photo to prove it. Remember that photo that they did a staged photo of them like looking at the screen as the Delta Force or whatever it was, SEAL Team 6 busted in and caught bin Laden, and then Hillary's got her hand cupped over her mouth.
Yeah, they're in the situation room or whatever. I know.
Yeah, the situationalist room. The situationism room. So these things, once again, these are all things that are being debated. Oh, what's Hillary going to do about ISIS? Oh, what's Trump going to do about ISIS? What are you going to do about terror? All that type.
once again, these are fake things. So you have more fake stuff being debated, and it's foundationally fake. And the analogy that we came up with earlier that Chris was talking about was that, you know, Chris, I'm coming into your house and I'm going to, you know, eat this pudding that you've got in your fridge. And Chris says, well, the debate becomes, well, John, how much of the pudding are you going to eat? And were you going to also, you know, eat the vanilla wafers as well? And it's no longer about like, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing coming into my fridge? Right?
Yeah. Like, and we could go into negotiations about, you know, yeah, well, John, I just made that pudding. I really like, and it's tapioca, and I really like it, man. And yeah, and then like I'll give you a bag of M&Ms, like if you just leave my tapioca alone. But yeah, we never go into like, okay, why is John stopping over regularly and just taking crap out of my refrigerator and leaving? You know, that we never, that never enters into the discussion. It never is brought up, never is alluded to or anything. Just and then we just go on and on and on with about like, you know, it's like, and then you say, oh, last time you gave me M&Ms, and they weren't even peanut M&Ms, and then we could just argue about that shit, and just like, yeah, but yeah, never go into the premise.
Yeah, and that'll never be that'll never be gotten into, because this whole idea, all of this stuff is based off of fakery and lies and nonsense. And so, whereas I would say that I don't even think we need to go into that. I think everybody's pretty much aware of that. And I don't even think we need to go over any more of the debate. I would say watch the debate because it's entertaining. It is pretty funny at times. And you don't need to be worried about any of the stuff that they're talking about. I guess, you know, obviously, you know, there's going to be bad things economically in the future. I mean, I don't see it getting any better, unfortunately. I wish it would. But these are all controlled mechanisms. Having the potential president debate the economy is a ridiculous notion in the first place, as if the president has anything to do with the economy whatsoever.
No, like what really do they have to do with the economy? And then like Hillary Clinton's talking about how, you know, because they're pointing out, yeah, the, you know, economy's in the toilet now, and Obama's been in there 8 years, and so she's blaming it on George W. Well, see now, you know, Obama inherited a real mess out of George W. And then, but okay, so can't you use that excuse at will then, and say, well, yeah, maybe George W. inherited a bad situation, and he from...
Oh, but the banks aren't ever brought up. It was George Bush's fault. It was George W. Bush's fault that the economy collapsed, right?
Yeah, it's all his fault. And then, no, it's just preposterous, man. Really.
And then it's Obama's fault that the economy is in bad shape, right, Chris?
It's Obama's fault. Of course it's Obama. Is it Obama's fault? But no, because he had the Republicans stop him when he wanted to do good things and help the economy, John. And the Republicans stopped him. And remember that?
Yeah, the banker. Yeah, I remember the banker bailout, which you made a good point about the banker bailout, that the banker bailout wouldn't matter, because once again, it was the media telling you that the banker bailout mattered, when they could have done a deal like that without anybody even knowing it anyways.
No, right. I mean, yeah, we talked about that, how they could have done that transfer of money to the bankers and nobody would have been none the wiser. It could have been done through probably countless different ways, but it had for some reason to be very upfront and public about that whole thing, which is Which my take on that is that I think I'm looking at a lot of this stuff, and I think it's necessary in our system the way it is for us all to understand that, you know, on one level that, yeah, we are like vassals or slaves, serfs, and there's really not a whole lot we can do about it. And I think that is being communicated to us right now in so many different ways, and especially with this election, because there's the stuff that they're talking about now, how even Trump brought it up, which I was kind of taken aback by that when he said that Hillary was responsible for the violence that broke out at the Republican convention. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, really? You know, that he bring that up. I was just kind of, but then again too, it's like, no, it's like, yeah, that goes in line with what I've been thinking about this whole thing, is that this is all part of this election cycle, so that what is being done, and this is my take on it, is that they are now in the process of phasing this current system out, and just dismantling and, you know, demoralizing both sides and making it just overtly corrupt and illegitimate to destroy people's faith in it so they can replace it with something else down the road.
Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah. I mean, we talked about that before, that you know, presidential scandals, obviously the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky scandal was fake. I haven't taken a full look at it, but I'm suspicious on most levels that, and we've actually talked about this in the past, that the Watergate scandal was fake, right? And what that did is it was very demoralizing to the country to have a president be, you know, involved in criminal action, and to look, you know, to see a president be committing crimes, right, in the eyes of the public.
And then have Clinton come out and say, what is the meaning of the word is, and talking his lawyer talk and all that.
Yeah. And it helped to further erode the faith that people had in the system, because that system is the old system, and it takes a long time to get rid of the old system, even though that was your system. It's like you know, it's like when paint starts to peel and you got to put a new coat of paint on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes a long time for that paint to wear out and finally peel off. But once it starts peeling, you know, can scrape it off and slap on a new coat, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's what we have here. That's what we're seeing, and the epitome of the spectacle a la WWF style entertainment was played out in these debates, and I conclude my analysis of this here debate, Mr. Kimball.
Okay, yeah, I think that was a good synopsis of the whole thing, a way more accurate one, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it you know, just basically pointing out the obvious. I mean, I don't know. This mass ritual event taking place tomorrow called the elections, that I should maybe talk about that for a little bit. But first, I'll just do this quote. One of the great commandments of science is mistrust arguments from authority, quote unquote. Too many such arguments have proved too painfully wrong. Authorities must prove their contentions like everybody else. And that's attributed to Carl Sagan. It's interesting he would say that, but That's a good one, and just noted it. And then I think that, well, what does it have to do with the elections? I think it ties in nicely because that's just one big argument from authority, is it not? Because you can have the so-called presidential debates, but like I pointed out on talking with John about it, is that, yeah, it's not really a debate. I mean, a debate would mean that you could bring in the different arguments that would examine the premise, right? I mean, you could do that in an actual debate. But see, the debate has this unexamined premise that it kind of catapults from off of that, and that's the belief in authority. Like, what gives either of these individuals, even if they were voted in, so to speak, what gives them the right to rule everybody? What if you don't participate? They still rule over you anyway, right? Well, ostensibly, I don't think that the figurehead called the president actually rules anything. I don't, and the reason being is that, well, like I've pointed out multiple times, that you just take a president, for example. Take the beloved president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and then he spent, from the official record, he spent every single weekend off at Martha's Vineyard. And then look at the Bush, George W. Bush. He spent, according to the official record, upwards of an entire third of his presidency on vacation, like golfing, fiddling around at the ranch, or whatever he was doing. Now, anybody, well, Obama, so he's the current figurehead president. And where is he usually at? Well, he's usually on the golf course, naturally. So, here's another thing. The real debate would be to, what kind of, since you're going to be president, you're going to be doing a lot of recreational activities, because the presidents, traditionally have a lot of time off. Running the country, I guess, is a sort of relatively low impact job. I mean, relatively, compared to being a manager at, a five and dime store, or like a CVS pharmacy or Walgreens. Like, they don't get much time off. I don't imagine that much time off, but in comparison, I guess the presidency is pretty low impact. So I guess a good question to ask them during the debates is what do you have any hobbies? Because you're going to need a hobby. You're going to need golf. I think Donald Trump likes golf, so wouldn't he be better suited to be president than Hillary Clinton? Since I don't know if she likes golf or not, but she's probably got plenty of extracurricular activities. And I guess these emails that are coming out kind of are touching on some of those things, allegedly, which have supposedly unveiled some potential child trafficking and all that. But see, now, who knows? What are these emails in actuality, and what do they represent? And I tend to think, that these people that are identified as in government are up to all kinds of chicanery, and does not surprise me that they would be involved in pedophilia, child trafficking, and stuff like that. The Clinton Foundation is obviously some sort of a front for something, and why not child trafficking? I mean, after all, if you're in authority, you can pretty much get away with whatever the hell you want to get away with. So why wouldn't that be the case? Question is, okay, why is that all coming out now? Well, in my opinion on that is that the whole point and purpose is, and I do think there's something to those allegations or what's revealed in those emails, and but it's sort of a limited hangout, and there's not going to be anything that's going to be too overtly, incriminating about any of those things, because it's not meant to be. It's meant to be kind of titillating, salacious, suggestive of certain things. It's crafted to be so, either through taking out certain ones or editing them before they're, released. And like Jay was pointing out on his excellent analysis of the whole thing, is like taking clips from people who are quote unquote like former CIA talking about, it's the CIA and Julian Assange is the front, and we're doing, and then you listen to Alex Jones and people like that, and they're doing their analysis of it, and they're saying, oh, these are good people within the FBI and the CIA. Oh, okay, really, Alex? Good people within trying to stop Hillary from being elected. And then, of course, what is the big? And another thing too, it's just like all these psychological operations and all this stuff, and this is another psychological operation. This is like I view it as a psyop, just like the Sandy Hook shooting and the Boston bombing and the Pulse nightclub, because all these things too, if you think about it, fall in line with the same theme. It's all this kind of all build up to the same theme, and then you had the representative that stands up for, allegedly stands up for like minorities and the downtrodden, and she wants gun control, and she wants gay rights and blah blah blah, and then this all comes on the heels of the shootings, and then everything kind of seems geared towards propping her up to be president, right? If you think about it. So I tend to think that she's already kind of pre-selected. Donald Trump was put up there as sort of a co-host to the whole. It's kind of like if it was like the whole thing was like the night show. Donald Trump will be the co-host guy that kind of sitting on it. Hillary's the main, but the whole end result is she's going to be president. I was kind of debating whether or not to put this on my blog, but there's a Newsweek that already has a special edition out in print, and supposedly boxed up, that has Hillary Clinton's picture on the front and saying Madam President, like she's already been elected, and they already have it printed up, and it's already got the barcode on it. It's all ready to put into the stores, and it's all ready to go. And there was also somebody supposedly dug up links to the election results that are already put together and ready to go, and that were sitting on the servers of the media outlets, all already pre-prepped and ready to go with the final election results and everything. And it's like, yeah, of course. Now, so is it a done deal? I don't know. I tend to think so based on that, but we'll see. We'll see anyway. But irregardless of what comes out, either Donald Trump being the president or Hillary Clinton being president, one thing is pretty certain, is like nothing's going to change, and just based upon what they talk about. I mean, none of them brings up kafirs. None of them brings up anything really earth-shattering or important. It's kind of the same rhetoric, and like we've pointed that out, that it's like, okay, Barry Goldwater was saying the same crap back in the 60s? Yeah, 60s, 70s. I don't know. It's the same rhetoric, same thing. It's all the same talking points. This is abortion, gun control, gay rights, blah blah blah, immigration, blah blah blah. Same thing. It's been going on for the last how many multiple decades of the same talking points. That's one thing. So there's really nothing there by way of substantive debate at all, any way, shape, or form. Like if you think that Donald Trump is going to reverse all these free trade policies that have been, I mean, to my knowledge, looking into it, did not Richard M. Nixon kick off favored nation trade status with China back in the 70s, and every subsequent president after that has built upon that to get us where we are today. So this is a cross administration's program that has been underway for a long time. I mean, the logistics and the moving mountains to get all the industry way the hell on the other side of the world. That was a long concerted effort over multiple years to take all the manufacturing, everything out of the United States, obviously. And not any one president is responsible for that, because whether they were Democrats or Republicans, they all furthered the agenda and got it to where, like I'm saying, where it is today. You think a president is going to come in, really get elected, and really reverse any of that? It's like, you are freaking dreaming. You are absolutely dreaming. You think a president is going to come in and stop the immigration flooding into the country? You're absolutely dreaming. You're dreaming. That's the American dream. You got to be asleep to believe it. Like Carlin said, he's absolutely dead on right. You got to be asleep to believe. You got to be dreaming. Not going to happen. It's just absolutely not going to happen. And now, am I like saying that I'm okay, settle down, not so Freemason? He's saying rock the vote. He's getting all pumped up. Yeah, rock the vote. I love rock the vote. I mean, that's because it's so absurd. Like, I remember that way back with, when I was a teenager, when MTV was coming up and all that, and they would have that come on around election time. You get out and everybody rock the vote. And they're at the beach, and it's fun. It's like all cool and hip, and it's like, oh, what are you going to do tomorrow? I'm going to rock the vote. Rock the vote. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, vote, rock the vote. Rock the vote, everybody. Driving around in the, come on. Yeah. Okay, for one thing, you're going to have, like, young people, and then now, you hear about Hillary Clinton and making appeals to the young. It has, like, rappers that will come out and shill for her, and they want young people to be engaged and to vote and to voice their opinion and vote. And it's like, yeah, these young people that have no clue of what's going on, we want them actively engaged in deciding the future of who's going to be running the country, really. Is that legitimate? Shouldn't there be some age limitation? I mean, people in college age and stuff like that, you just take a survey of them. They don't even know. They don't know anything. I mean, they don't even know where these countries that we're supposed to be at war at are even at on the map. They don't know anything. I mean, I'm just talking in general. I'm sure there's plenty of them that do, but just in general. But I'm just pointing out just the absurdity of the whole thing. It's like, oh, you want these people making decisions for how the country's run. We really, really want to get them. No, it just demonstrates that the whole thing is a psychological operation. They want people engaged. I think that's a big part of these emails coming out. It's like a psychological operation. They want these arch enemies, right? And I've talked about this before. Is how Bush, he affected a Texas accent. He didn't really have a Texas accent. He was playing the role. He was playing a character actor of this arch villain that the left wing would love to hate. They love to hate Bush. Even to this day, it's like Bush is the most evil. Even though if you look at his track record, he's probably more in line with what Democrats want than anything else. It doesn't matter. They could go out and take surveys like, hey, what'd you think about Hillary's stance on immigration policy? She says she's going to build a wall and Mexico and have Mexicans pay for it. And then, like, Hillary supporters say, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I said, well, no, that's Trump's agenda. I said, I didn't know. Oh, really? That's bad. So it's like, yeah, you want these people decide. See, now, and then people will look at that and laugh and say, oh, that's ridiculous and all that. And they'll have it on these, Tonight Show and all that. But what it really illustrates, and I think what's missed out on people, is like, you really think that these elections are real, and then these people who have vast fortunes and everything, they're just going to just kind of kick back and let all this happen and let the average schlub vote somebody in that's going to potentially, gut their industry or do something like that with some policy change or try to reverse trade affairs and stuff like that, and it's going to really seriously impact them, and they're just going to just kind of kick back and let all this happen and be at the mercy of the average schlub that doesn't even take any time or effort to figure out what's going on in the world or anything? You really think that's the case? I mean, just going off the surface level stuff that's out there, it's so preposterous. It's but then we're supposed to believe it. See, now this is all just one big ritual, though. It's just one big psychological operation. It's psychological manipulation. And the point being, I think, is to shape people's minds. And I think that's always the objective, to change and shift perceptions. I think that's always important to do in anything, whether you're talking about these, mass shooting events. So, yeah. It is interesting, nonetheless. But anything going to change? No, absolutely not. And I think most people listening to calls know that. The elections are totally phony. Somebody might say, well, see, the reptilians took over and hijacked our good election process and everything and messed it all up so that we can't vote ourselves a good leader, or the Jews did it, or whatever, sometime back. It used to be a glorious republic. We used to be able to decide our good leader and everything, but so you got hijacked, and then it got taken over by somebody somewhere, some nefarious party somewhere. With the Federal Reserve Bank in 1913, the Jews took over that, and they took over elections. And but before that, it used to be all good, and it used to be all above board. But if you've been looking at some posts I've made pointing out that it could well be the case, and I certainly believe this myself, is that we never did leave the thumb of the British Empire. Never did happen. There was this revolution that supposedly happened back in 1776. Then they wrote a new constitution. We were supposed to be all independent from the crown and all that. And that's how we started getting elections, started getting democracy. If you look at our so-called system, and you kind of do a cross comparison with the British Empire. So what did the British Empire have going on? They had they had their Parliament, which is like our kind of House of Representatives, and they had their House of Lords, which was kind of like our Senate. And then they had the King, which is like our president. And they all had very similar type of organization and process. Except for I don't think the King was elected. It's kind of, And then you can look at that, and then you can look at... I just posted up an article about how Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are related to the monarchy, to some kind of royalty. They're related. They're like 17th cousins or something like that. There's that. There's this Harvard University professor. He's coming out with this analysis of the American Revolution. I was trying to find the guy's name, Eric Newton. But the title of it is Monarchy and the American Founding. And he basically lays out how, the founding fathers, they really weren't opposed to the, King George III and the crown. They were opposed to the parliament, the parliamentary system. That's what they didn't like, and that's what they fought the Revolutionary War over, to get us out from under parliamentary rule, and to not get away from the king, but they actually were disappointed in how how little power that he had. They wanted him to have more. They actually wanted him to have more power. It's like, oh, really? Now the question that I can't find that this individual answers is, okay, where does that leave us in the modern day? I mean, what is it? Are we still under the crown? I mean, I think the obvious answer is yes. I mean, now Canada is it not a Commonwealth of Britain? Okay, now look at the way they're set up, and look at the way they go about their day-to-day lives, and look at the way they're, it's like, isn't it a lot like the United States? It's an awful lot like the United States, isn't it? And look at Great Britain and, England, and isn't it a lot like the United States? I mean, there's not a whole lot of real distinct differences, is there? And then they'll have like something encoded into law, and then a lot of people have pointed out, it's like, yeah, usually 5 years later, the United States will incorporate the same exact thing. It's like, yeah, that's it's real interesting how it all kind of, well, then of course you got NATO and the alliances between the British and the United States. They're kind of working together to go crack heads over in the Middle East, and they're kind of all chummy and working together. I remember I was in the Navy years ago. Went to Diego Garcia, which is kind of out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, kind of a remote island that's for, strategically positioned there with the base there. And then they had the British on the American base with they call it I forget the acronym or whatever. It's just, but in other words, it was just a joint British-American base. And so you go on there, and we had several days there. I was like waiting for the ship, and then you go out and you have some beers or whatever. You got these Brits sitting around talking, that crazy Brit talk they talk. So yeah, what's going on there? So this is like our adversary that we fought a war to get out from under, and. But I'm just going off just surface level appearances here. It's like there doesn't seem to be no real actual distinction. And like I said, the government is set up awful similar, isn't it? Is it not? I mean, why do people go so absolutely ape shit over a president? Well, it's just like a king. It's like a king, it's like, even though they'll tell you, it's like, oh yeah, they have limited powers. They have checks and balances. We have this Congress that, has got to prove stuff to the president, but then you hear that, like, oh yeah, the president declared war without approval of Congress. It's like, well, how do they just kind of dictatorial, and then it's kind of not, and it's not supposed to be, but it is, and then you can sign an executive order, but it's like, and then it kind of like doesn't have to go through Congress or anything. It's like all this crazy crap, and they can veto stuff, and it's like they kind of have like almost dictatorial powers, but yet they're not supposed to, but they don't, and it's like, it kind of like, it's a lot like a king, isn't it? But in actuality, I don't think that they actually think for themselves and make these decisions on their own. I think they're making it to pass to somebody else, and people higher ups. But I think there's just overwhelming evidence for that. I don't know how debatable it is. And then you got these university professors coming out and saying the same thing. Oh yeah, they didn't actually fight the king; they actually fought Parliament. It's like, yeah. How is that a big surprise to me? It's not. Something I've been talking about for a while, I believe for a long time. It's like, no, never did. Yeah, I talked about the Treaty of Paris, 1783. It talks about the trade relations, favored nation trade status with Britain. I think that maybe came on, maybe a decade later. There was several Treaty of Parises, and then there, the one that talk about, our indebtedness isn't how we're going to work out paying off the debt, the merchants' debt to the British and all that, and how that's all set up, and that treaty, and then how you go back and look at that too, and it said how it gave America extensive fishing rights and all that. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, who did? Oh, you mean the Crown gave America? How did? Why? Okay, I thought we just got through fighting a war. It's like, what are they doing giving us rights that apparently they had to give us right? They had to grant us rights, just like our government does today. They had to grant us rights, our gun rights and stuff like that, or our fishing rights too. But we got to go get permission, like a permit. Okay, so yeah, I put a video about CAFRs, Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports. That's where your city, state, and local governments, they have a second set of books, and it really doesn't take much thought when you're looking at this to think, oh, well, obviously that would be the case, right? They would have all these accounts that are on a second set of books that are drawing dividends, right? Because they're interest-bearing accounts. If you have large amounts of money in accounts and stuff like that, it'll draw interest and all that, which they could totally run all the governments with these dividends off these accounts, these returns. Just like any wealthy person, they don't have to work. They can get, dividends off their investments and all that. And according to a lot of people I hear, it's like the government, through the different investments, like, retirement funds, all these rainy day funds, building maintenance funds. They had, this recent brouhaha here in Oklahoma with the Capitol building needing repairs. And it's like, well, we need to raise taxes so we could save our glorious Capitol building is falling apart. And it's like, those assholes have probably a multi-million-dollar, maybe even $1 billion account for money for repair. But see, that's all in a second set of books. And they only tell the average schlub about the budget, which is like what their revenue is versus their expenditures. So it's like very overly simplistic accounting that they show to the public, and then like in the meanwhile they're sitting on untold millions, billions of dollars in these accounts. Which, is that so hard to believe? No, that's absolutely not hard to believe at all. When you sit and think about it, it's like, no, that's not hard to believe. Now, here's another thing, and I pointed this out too. It's just one example. It's like, okay, they have Howell School, which is 2 blocks to the north of me, just closed down a couple of years ago. Okay, so if you're in this district that's paying taxes ostensibly for schools off your property taxes, do you get a discount on your property taxes that gets reassessed that, so they close the school down and they're going to consolidate with another school in another district somewhere, so that there's one less school in this tax district. So will your taxes go down? It's like, nope, So based on just that one thing, well, here's another example. I'll just throw another one in there. It's like, okay, when gas prices went from $4 a gallon to $2 a gallon because they were bitching and complaining about it. The government was like, our cost expenditures went way up. We got to raise taxes again. We got to raise the state sales. We got to raise the sales tax. Or we can't operate because gas is high. It's like, okay. So you want to raise taxes to cover that, right? So they did. And gas went back down. Any discussion about a tax deduction or a rebate or refund or anything like that? No. So just based on those two things, there's obviously excess going into the coffers, right? What do they do with that? Well, see, they put it back in these accounts and they stockpile wealth, and then they invest into the stock market and everything else with it. And then by accounts of different people that are talking about this stuff, it's that they own 70+% of all the stock market through these shenanigans. And they keep a tight lid on it. And I'm saying, well, that means that there is no real definitive distinction between your corporations and your government then. Because it's owned by way through of these accounts. The entire damn shooting match is owned by the same group of criminals that keep all this hidden from people. So it's like, yeah, no wonder you got all this corruption and stuff. No wonder. I mean, government is just evil. It's just an evil construct. It's not real. It's just this evil configuration where like people can just actively engage in robbing and trafficking children and everything else. Well, why wouldn't they do that? They can absolutely get away with everything else. It's like, why wouldn't they take kids and stuff too? If that's what they want to do, they can do any damn thing. What are you going to do about it? You're not going to do anything about it. Is what you're going to do about it. And am I preaching disparity and hopelessness and all that? It's like, no, nothing's going to be done about it. But that doesn't mean that something could be done about it. What could be done about it is like people get wise to the scam and stop participating. You know, imagine like having this dog and pony show and nobody show up. You know how devastating that would be to the people in charge right now, the people who are the powers that be or the powers that shouldn't be or whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. Could you imagine how utterly terrifying that would be to them? It's like just barely anybody shows up. Like you actually have to bribe people like with donuts or something to show up at the polling places. Like you have to actually literally bribe them to show up or else nobody shows up because they know it's a scam. They know they're on to the scam and they don't participate in it. They said, no, it's a scam. I don't want to bother with that. You know, it's just like I don't want to. When I get one of those emails from somebody saying that they're a princess that needs help, you know, getting some money out of their account, and they're from Nigeria, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to respond to it or do anything with that. Why not, Chris? You don't like helping princesses out, and you know, and you could make money off if you help them out, they'll help you out. They could help them get that money on the account. You can make a little bit of money off there. Why don't you do that? It's like, yeah, haven't you heard that it's a scam? Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean you don't like money, Chris. And it don't mean like, it's like, no, it's a scam. It's a scam. So therefore, I don't participate. It's just like the elections. I don't participate. I know it's a scam. People stop participating in scams. It's like what I'm trying to say is that the elections should have the same exact reputation of the Nigerian email scams by now. So what I'm saying is, are there still people that fall for it? Yeah, sure. There's occasional schlub that falls for it. That's where I would hope that we would eventually get at some point, where it's like, yeah, you got the occasional schlub that falls for the election sham, but the average person knows that it's a scam.